Hello, welcome to James's pre-fight, post-fight MMA show, where we recap all the important things happening in the sport of MMA, and I, your host James, try to explain to you what's going on in the sport and make it as easy as 1, 2, 3 for you to understand. We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to Fans Assemble. I'm your host James, and here we're going to talk about finally an actually good card from the UFC that you guys don't have to pay for $60, $70, I believe now. It's going to be on the big ESPN card in Orlando. It's going to have it has a lot of big names opposed to the last couple fight nights we've gotten at the Apex that we've broken down before. This one's going to be a big one. I'm sure it's going to bring out the best of me and Mike. So it's just simple as that, and a lot of great matchups. And this should be the beginning of a very good end of 2022 for the UFC. We're going to have this card. We're going to have one December 10th, pay-per-view, and another really good, actually pretty good Apex card at the end of the year. So this is going to kind of build the momentum that UFC 281 got us started with. So here on this episode, I am joined by my co-host, Mike. And we're going to just get right into it. So the first fight on the card is heavyweights. And Mike is a specialist when it comes to doing the heavyweight analysis. We have top 5 fighters, Tai Tuivasa versus Sergey Pavlovich. Both guys very young. Tuivasa coming off of that loss to Cyril Gane, where I think me and Mike would say he kind of overperformed, in our opinion. I'm sure Mike would agree with me there. Sergey Pavlovich has basically been perfect in the UFC since his loss in his debut against Alistair Overeem. So that's the momentum both of them are going through. Even though Pavlovich is coming off of a little bit of a controversial first-round KO win over Derek Lewis, where a lot of us thought that the fight could have kept going. So anyways, let's get into it. Tail of the tape. Tai Tuivasa is 15-4, 29 years old, with a 75-inch reach. He's won the 2 of his last 3. Sergey Pavlovich is 16-1, so Tai will have a little bit more experience than him. 30 years old, he's 6'3", with an 84-inch reach, and he is coming off of, I think he's won his last 4. So he's only lost 1 fight in the UFC, so that's basically what I get to. Both of these guys known for finishing ability. Tai obviously comes forward like crazy, good in the clinch, good leg kicks, underrated technical ability. And Pavlovich, I don't think he hasn't won a UFC fight that wasn't in the first round yet. So very tricky fight to predict, in my opinion, especially with the physical advantages Pavlovich has. But then you got the experience of Tuivasa. So, Mike, what do you see going into this fight?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like, this is an interesting fight because now, like, Tuivasa is coming down from his rise, and now he's gonna have to kind of be the bigger name in the fight.
Yeah.
Um,
He's defending his spot, basically, right?
Right. He's trying to stay up at the top. And Pavlovich obviously, has a lot of momentum on his side. But I think the one good thing that Tai Tuivasa showed in the Gane fight was his durability. Because it's one thing to, like I said, like Pavlovich is doing now, right? You can win your fights in the early rounds, get some big shots, get some big knockout wins. But at the end of the day, how you react to getting punched back is, especially if you're trying to push for title contention, right? You've got to be durable. You're going to run into opponents that are just too good to knock out in 30 seconds. So Tai did a really good job showing that he has the durability. He can withstand some serious punishment. As much as he can dish it out, he can also take it. But going into this fight, Pavlovich is actually the favorite. Vegas has him as the favorite to win. And I think when you look into it, some of his stats are just so impressive. I mean, 13 of his 16 pro fights were by knockout. I mean, 6.83 strikes a minute. He's got a reach advantage on Tuivasa, significant one, a couple of inches. I think this is just a fight you look at it. Someone's getting knocked out.
100%.
Someone's getting, and it's going to be like a highlight KO. Like, someone's getting rocked. I mean, they're both going to get rocked. Someone's gonna get rocked bad. Um, and it's one of those things. I mean, I could see this being heavy in the first round. Both of them really come at each other. Um,
Hmm.
I could see Ty kind of like trying to get to the clinch. You know, if he's getting overwhelmed a little bit.
With the reach, right? That's what I think
Right.
too.
Try to survive a little bit. But if this one goes into second round, I mean, look, we can't deny like the knockout capabilities of Tuivasa. Um, I mean, some of the ones he's pulled off are brutal. I mean, like the elbow and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't understate, and like I said, he's got like momentum. The crowd is going to be behind him. So those are all advantages for him. Um, I've been pretty impressed by Pavlovich so far. He kind of, obviously, he's gained a lot of recent momentum, and now they're
Hmm.
giving him a very, very massive fight.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like this is a fight you would think would be like, especially with how popular Tai Tuivasa is. It's just like like a pay per view or main event quality fight, and you're getting it, you know, um,
Yeah, it's like a
halfway through
weird
the
spot
card.
on the card.
Right. It's yeah, exactly. Like you're getting such a really good important fight in the middle of a card on a fight night. Um, so just in general, and but this is going to be an environment too with, like I said, an active crowd. In Orlando, they get really into it. So like I think Tuivasa is going to have to just get into the hype, do his thing, be patient, um,
I think so too.
and hope Pavlovich lets his guard down. I'm having a
Right.
really hard time picking this fight. It's one of those things, but I do think Pavlovich is going to continue his rise, and I think
Okay.
he's gonna finish Tuivasa in the second round.
All right. So I understand what you mean with the talks about durability because you think like Cyril Gahn, this is a guy who is very hard to like get into like a slugfest. He's very safe, very smart, and that's exactly what Ty did. And I could see like so one thing you said is like Pavlovich, he has very impressive stats. I didn't realize this until now, but he's only gone past one round his entire career, not even in the UFC. He's only gone past three times in his total of 17 fights. So this guy, like you said, he's getting guys out of there very quick. And it's tough to tell, like you were saying, like it's hard to imagine what the fight's gonna be because like Ty is definitely gonna be the best fighter he's fought. Definitely the most durable. Like some of the guys he fought, like Marcelo Golm and Maurice Green, like those guys are not. Some of those guys are kind of like not. They're barely UFC caliber. Some of them are not even in the UFC, like Maurice Green. Uh, but then again, like you were talking, like Ty, he's gonna give him the fight he kind of wants, right? He's gonna strike with him, but and then there's always that factor of like Pavlovich. He could be like, "Oh, I'm gonna knock him out. I'm gonna knock him out," and then bang, like Ty catches him with a big shot. I think you're right. There's kind of no way around. There's no way of really like being fully like perfectly correct because like we always talk about on the show. You always point out it's heavyweights, right? It's so unpredictable. Plus, you got a guy in Pavlovich who like in the UFC we don't know tons and tons about what he can do. So it's a really weird one to pick. I actually seems like Pavlovich, he's such a favorite. If you even go to round one KO, it's a favorite pick. It's minus 105. So that's how favorite he is to be. And then you pick round two by KO. It's plus 650. So if you really believe in Pavlovich, that's the if the audience, everybody listening really believes in him, that's the way to go. I agree with you. I think if he really lays it on him, I think Ty is gonna be a little bit hard to get out of there. But that being said, I will go the opposite way. I will pick I want to pick Tai Tuivasa. I think I'm feeling a little frisky with it. I think that so originally before you and I talked, we try not to talk about these fights too much before we record. But Pavlovich, I thought for sure, all right, he's gonna win because of this huge reach. But now I kind of like look at his record, and I'm looking like Ty has more UFC fights. Not all of them wins, but they're more UFC fights. And then he has a little bit, in my opinion, a slightly more ways to win. I think Pavlovich's boxing is very good. And it's very impressive and clean, but I think Ty has a little bit more going on. I'm just being a little crazy right now. It's the holidays, so I feel like being very generous. So So you said second round finished, right, for Pavlovich, TKO, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Or
I think this is, one of those things where it's like, okay, should we just slow down and relax? Like, is Pavlovich getting too much hype going into this? I mean, you know, the only real comparison you can make is to watch the two separate, Derek Lewis fights.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But even then, with the way the Pavlovich one finished, it was like, how could you get a lot from that, right?
exactly. It was fast, and we know how it went.
Yeah,
Uh,
some people the stoppage was a little weird. Honestly, I think if Ty wins, it's not gonna look exactly like that fight. I think it'll be something like this fight. I think he's gonna get hurt, like you said, right? He has to. This reach is so huge. He's gonna have to like use a little bit of durability. He's gonna get rocked. Pavlovich's gonna, I could get the finish, and then he's gonna hit him off like a shot that heavyweights don't usually throw. Like, how many heavyweights do you get like throwing elbows like that? You know?
oh, yeah, it's brutal, and I think that's the thing. Like Tuivasa needs to back him up against the cage and get him vulnerable for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people have been able to make him vulnerable because we don't. That's the thing. We need to see Pavlovich become vulnerable. That's the problem. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to like, it's hard to really like assess what he's capable of because
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you have all these quick finishes, like that's what I'm saying. That we really didn't know what Tuivasa. Yes, he absolutely like decimated Derek Lewis and um, with the elbow and up against the cage and all these different things. Like, you know, but it was that Gon fight where we really learned when he faced adversity and he faced a
Mm-hmm.
real serious risk of how he responded from getting knocked down. Like, I mean, how he survived some of those hits were like, there's no way this guy is back up.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. It was a great fight. And so like I really am hoping for this one to go more than a round and really see these
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
at each other. Because I want to see
Yeah.
what Pavlovich is made of. And right now
Yeah.
I'm assuming and I'm kind of buying into it that
He is everything that everybody's
I
saying,
feel
right?
like things are very unstable. Like I just feel an instability in the heavyweight division, and I feel like the cycle's just going to keep changing. Now he Pavlovich is going to come up and work his way towards a title fight.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I could be totally wrong, and honestly, this is one where like um, I have no problem admitting it. This is one where I'm kind of just making an assumption. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
more like there's not much you could put behind it other than um, there's a feeling of momentum. But I don't think Ty lost momentum either by losing to God. It was just
Pavlovich momentum's that strong.
right. It's like
Yeah.
Ty didn't lose momentum losing to God. It was a Pyrrhic victory in the sense that he lost, but um,
Right.
you know he gave it his all. Like he really pressed. He shows that he has still a future to go. So
Yeah. I
this
see
is
what
a
you mean.
hard one, but
So movie. So that one had a little bit of like a sort of like a veteran versus a little bit of a guy coming up. This next one, our co-main event, I'm looking very forward to this one. It's just two veterans, two guys have been around for a little bit long, for a while. One who's a lot more credentialed than the other, though. Brian Bam Bam Barberina versus Rafael dos Anjos. It's taking place at welterweight. RDA, very, very well known for being the lightweight champion. Challenged for the interim welterweight title against Colby Covington. So this weight class is not anything very new to him. He's fought many times at this weight class, like against Neil Magny, Lawler, Covington, Usman. He's really made it to the tippity top of welterweight. And, he was very small and then he came back down. He had some success down at lightweight again, the original weight class that he won the title in. And he ended up having a competitive fight with Rafael Fiziev and then getting TKO'd late in the fight. Uh, so that was kind of like he even admitted himself, which I think could play a factor in the fight. That he's admitted all he wants to do is really take these fun fights, fights that are legacy building fights, since he knows that he's been a little bit shut out from the title, and that's why this fight's happening at welterweight. And Brian Barberina, this if he wins this fight, this will continue the trend of him beating guys who are very well known legends, like he beat Matt Brown and he TKO'd Robbie Lawler, I believe, in the summer in July. So it's a very interesting fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight. Two guys very well known. Brian Barberina, so the tail tape, he's 18 and 8, 33 years old. He's 6 feet tall, which I was kind of surprised at because I didn't think he was that tall. 72-inch reach, and he's coming off of 3 wins. And then Rafael dos Anjos is 31-14, so he's extremely experienced. 38, so he has a lot of miles on him. 5'8" with a 70-inch reach, and he's won the last two of his three. And I think the sense for most people, I'm going to say this really quick, and then we'll get into Mike's thoughts. The sense for me, and I think for some people, is like Rafael dos Anjos is just way better. Like, Brian Barberini, he's not going to be fighting for like titles at any point in his career, but RDA is definitely a lot more technical. He's a overall better fighter, better striking. He has very good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. But we question, is the time over for him? I think that's the big question going into this fight. So, Mike, what did you think when you when you were researching this one?
Well, the first things first, right, is that like Dos Anjos is a very heavy favorite to win this fight.
Yeah, huge.
The odds are overwhelming against Barberena. While this is kind of like something that obviously is like an important difference in any fight, but ultimately speaking, I think this one is really going to be focused on like significant strikes. Like you've seen in both these fighters, last couple fights, a key differential in their fights is a significant strike category. So I think it's just a matter of who's going to find a way to be more efficient and get better shots in.
Okay.
And then I think there's a question of age. Like Dos Anjos is 38 years old. At what point is he now in his case, in his case, right, like obviously he just had a fight with Fiziev where he lost in the 5th round, and that was back in July, right? I believe early July.
Not too long ago, yeah.
Not too long ago, he took someone who only has one loss to the 5th round, to the very end of the 5th round. So I don't think that Dos Anjos' age or anything is a concern in regards to stamina or strike power. Like I don't think he's like significantly regressed in 4 months' time. Because his last fight, I mean, he took it, an impressive fighter almost to completion. So, this is one that's interesting. I know there are a lot of people who believe Barberena is going to get the upset in this one.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, if Barberena can keep it up off the mat and find a way to beat outstrike Dos Anjos, then I think he can win this one by decision.
He's more like a volume guy, right? So you think he'll probably go a little into the fight, right? It's not gonna be short.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be. I think this one actually can end up going the distance, and I think that's if Barberena can hang in there, and just stay up, and he just has to come out and have a really, really good day. And obviously, like going up against Dos Anjos is a very, very difficult task. But I don't write him out. I think, and if you kind of like surf online, there are a lot of people who are, and I'm sure a lot of bettors who would love for Barberena to get the upset at those odds. I think that, and I think too, like this is one you're gonna have to figure out, like seeing how it starts. I think how this fight starts is probably how it's gonna end up going. Like if Dos Anjos comes out and just, appears to be the better fighter in the first round, then I think it's Dos Anjos' fight.
Yeah, because neither guy really has like a one shot, like he just puts some out kind of power.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna make a bold prediction.
Oh god! All
right. and I said it, and this is how I think it might go.
All right.
I think that Barberena is gonna take this one the distance.
Okay. I can see that. I mean, like Barberena, this stage of his career, like you said, like RDA, he's fought. It's hard to find guys who fought better guys than RDA. He has like one of the best resumes in the UFC, and his striking's a lot. I went on and on and on, but And in Barbarina, I think his durability is like a huge part of his game. But I think I can see what you're saying because he's had fights where like guys are like going to town on him, and then like they slow down at a certain point. I can see what you're saying. So your bold prediction is him by decision, right? I can see that.
Yeah, it would be a shock. It's tricky, you know, and obviously like it's like okay, Desenius looks like clear and obvious favorite, but sometimes to me, like, and I think Barbarian is really gonna have to earn this one.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be some stuff aligning for him a little bit.
Right, I'm not saying like you saw his win against Weeks. Like it's not gonna be like obviously like I don't think this is an easy win.
Uh huh.
I just it's nowhere near close to an easy win. It's just if he's gonna win, it's gonna be a very kind of boring fight. And like I said, he's just gonna kind of like he's gonna get the better of him striking, and it'd be a very marginal difference. Like it's not gonna be the most like
Okay.
enjoyable
Yeah.
difference, margin of victory, but um, something just kind of tells me this is going to be kind of like a, a transitional card, and where kind of like you see some
Okay.
champions,
All right. I can see that.
the,
Um.
you know, the tides are turning a little bit, because Barberena still has some room to move up and do some better things, and I think this could be that chance. And I think maybe he realizes too, like, I really need to take this opportunity.
mm. Yeah, I can see his. It's gonna be like you said, like his RDA's age, and then Barbarina, his activity on the feet's very very impressive. Like he doesn't throw the biggest shots, but so you're taking Barbarina via decision. I'm kind of leaning towards, which is kind of like I'm gonna go through the boring pick. I'm gonna lean towards Dos Anjos because I actually think his wrestling's gonna play a big part of the fight. Of course, there's always the possibility Barbarina is just heavier and then he can't actually like get the takedowns that easily. But I think if RDA basically shows up like 70% or 60% of like how he did his last fight, I think he'll be okay. Like his cardio has always been very good at lightweight, and then his cardio is like even better at welterweight. So I'm kind of leaning towards that, but this fight's kind of like that's how I see the fight. I think RDA via decision is how I look at it. But I think you're right. It's kind of like a one that you should stay away from betting wise because the like you're saying right like minus what is it like mine he's over at minus 500 right RDA.
Yeah,
So he's like over that, but then you and I were like, there's like this narrative going on that Brian Barberina's beating like these older guys who have like been champions or like very well known in their divisions, and an RDA would 100% fit that bill. But then you also added on that yeah, but Lawler was not fighting like he was fighting like Nick Diaz, right? Or like Matt Brown was fighting like Diego Sanchez. RDA was like if he won his last fight against Fiziev, RDA would probably be like almost for a title shot. So he's kind of like of a different circumstance. And I do think for him to lose this, it has to be like that one punch that Fiziev knocked him down with just took out everything. Like he's just like not the same at all. That's how I see it. But so I mean that's a sign of a good card in my opinion that you and I are split so far. So that's our picks for RDA. I mean Barbarina versus Dos Anjos. So moving on, main event, the crown jewels I like to call fights the main event. We have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Big Mouth Holland, little nickname. So Stephen Thompson, he's been having a hard time. His last two fights have been losses to Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, where he got basically wrestled. Um, and then before that, he had a really good streak. Beating Jeff Neal, showcasing his skills against Vicente Luque. He's always been a guy he has a hard time getting momentum, especially in welterweight because he gets injured and he's inactive. And I felt like after he lost the Gilbert fight, that was a really missed opportunity because he was like the only guy I think at the top five who hadn't fought Kamaru Usman yet. So now he's just trying to get a win. And Kevin Holland, somebody who people always liked because he has the whole thing like, oh, he saved the he like stopped robbers at the sushi restaurant. He called like 911 in a car accident, things like that. And then plus, like I think people like it, like he talks during the fight, and he kind of like doesn't take himself too seriously. Like that's kind of his whole thing. But his and I'll be honest, people kind of glance over a little bit some of his technical deficiencies. Like he has like a huge reach in most of his fights, and he doesn't really use it that well. Like he'll use it well like every like 10 minutes. So that's something to take into play in this fight. And Thompson, obviously very well known for his kickboxing, his striking. Holland, he had a really good win streak going on against, okay names, very old, no doubt, guys who are on the bridge of retirement, like Cowboy Oliveira and Tim Means. Like Cowboy Oliveira, I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. Tim Means is barely in the UFC anymore. Both respectable names, but just nowhere near the prime that they were at that point. And then Thompson, like I said, has come out 2 losses. He's 2-2 his last four. So Thompson's 6-1. So his one draws against Tyron Woodley at UFC 205. He's 39 years old, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, which I think the reach will be a big part of this fight. And I already told you how his record's going. He's 2-2 his last four. Kevin Holland's 28-8, one no contest. His one no contest when he got headbutted by Kyle Dawkins, and then they thought it was a KO and they had to change it again. And he got submitted really quickly against Hamza Chimaev's last fight, where me and Mike predicted it to a T. Not like we're geniuses or anything. That Chimaev would win by first round. So he's 30 years old, so he is significantly younger. 6'3", 81-inch reach. He has a 6-inch reach advantage. And he's coming out his last three. He's won his last two out of three. So a lot going on in this fight. We got some characters in here. We got a guy in Thompson who's done it all basically in the UFC. Fought grapplers, strikers, young guys, older guys, title fights, 5-round fights, big fights. He's been in a lot of them, but seems like he's maybe slowing down. He's 39 years old, or you could chalk it up to the two guys he fought were very good, and they're grapplers basically. And Kevin Holland, a guy who people want to see succeed, fighting maybe a changing of guard perhaps. So I have a lot to say about this one, and but let me pass it on to you, Mike. What do you think about this main event, this welterweight main event?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty even fight. I think the odds reflect the reality with Holland being a slight favorite. I think this one's really going to come down to efficiency of striking. I think neither fighter has like an extreme advantage as a striker that makes them overwhelmingly better than the other.
Okay.
And I think the second key to the fight is where I think Holland could separate himself from Thompson is by polishing up on the ground, and adding to like a slight advantage from striking. Holland's got a little bit of height and reach advantage too. All these different things.
Yeah, youth as well. He's 9 years younger.
You know, yeah, I just think we have to look at it and kind of like both these fighters have had some mixed results in their last couple fights, wins and losses. Obviously, Holland's much more paid attention to defeat, and that whole mashed up card where he ended up having to face Hamzat. And he kind of got thrown to the wolves there and got submitted in the first round. I think we need to kind of like put that. Like, I think that shouldn't be something that's even considered going into this fight. Like, Kevin Holland is, coming off a, bad defeat or anything like that. I think we can kind of judge Kevin Holland.
Yeah, but it's not a clear representation, right? Of like.
Yeah, I think we should totally just judge him on his other things. We see a lot of good finishes, like over Means and Oliveira in the second round. And with, like I said, the versatility, both submission, knockouts. So he's got capabilities on all ends to finish the fight. So I see Holland having, a stronger edge here to win the fight. And also Stephen Thompson's almost 40 years old, and Holland's got, a better a better track record in the last couple fights.
Hmm.
Obviously, other than the Khamzat fight. Um, but I think this is one of those fights for Holland. Like it's like, okay, if you lose this fight, then you're kind of like saying like, all right, you're trending downwards. Like this is kind of like a pick me up for him. I think this is really, you want to have a pick me up after the whole Khamzat loss, and kind of get back to doing what he does. The interesting thing about you know Thompson is like his style is very unique and different. Um,
Yeah,
and he's not from like a traditional background.
yeah. Like he's like most guys are like Muay Thai, boxing. His is like karate, kickboxing.
Right.
He's like
He's
unorthodox.
a very low fighter. So it's like I think Holland needs to overcome that. Just like the last fight we were talking about, Dos Anjos and Barberena. Like I think, like if Holland can get him down on the ground and get a little bit of an advantage there and add on to
Yeah,
um
like get him worried about it.
right, I think that will be the difference. I also happen to think this fight's actually gonna end up going the distance. The only thing I think too is like if Thompson can, like I said, keep Holland off of him, taking him down, and then it just gets down like to like it's really going to be another one like a slight differentials. I think it's going to be a tight decision. I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight. I think this is just more going to be about who defends himself better,
Hmm.
and who creates a defensive edge. That's why I think and that's why this fight really is so like close in terms of like the odds. 'Cause I think Thompson can really set himself up to defend himself well. Um, and it makes it kind of hard, like, because I can't really see like either one of these competitors like getting a strong like dominant finish on the other.
Oh yeah, I see that.
I think they both just have their strengths that are going to kind of prevent each other from finishing the other one. And I think it's going to go the difference, and I think Holland will squeak it out. Um, and you'll see, and all this, like I said, comes back to like, can he actually take him down and keep him down and kind of,
Hmm.
win the fight that way? Because you don't want to leave it to chance. You want to, as many people, some people will call it boring or whatever, but you can't leave a fight to chance.
Hmm.
Um,
It's
you
five
got, you
rounds,
got
so
to
there's gonna be a lot
you
to look at.
right. You got to create a significant difference between you and your competitor. You can't leave anything to fate. And like I said, if Holland could take him down and create that difference, I think he'll end up winning the fight.
Oh. So I do like that because I'll be honest, like Kevin Holland, like on his record, he does have good grappling abilities. It seems, and we've seen it like used as defensively, like he'll try to get up or he'll try to throw something off his back. He's not the most successful, but at least he shows it. So it's always the capabilities like he could use it offensively. But I think that Stephen Thompson, I actually think he's a Kevin Holland is like you said, the youth, the age, the success a little bit. Stephen Thompson's been having a hard time lately, but I do think that the guys Wonder Boy's been fighting are a lot better than the guys that Kevin Holland has been beating. And then also, I do think that Thompson's actually a lot better. Like he's a more efficient striker. Like Kevin Holland, I think sometimes he does not know how to use his reach sometimes. And like you said, I do think the thing that you pointed out is, and I didn't think of this until now, until you brought it up, is whoever is defensively better will win the fight. And I think that will be Thompson. I just think that if he's this like almost 70%, 60% of who he was in his last fight. I think he will win. I just think he's going to be a little bit. Um, he throws more combinations. His kicking, I think, is a lot better than Holland. I know Holland does throw kicks, but Thompson throws a lot, and then he actually they're very strange too. Like a lot of fighters aren't used to those. Like, he has like side kicks, hook kicks, spinning kicks, and stand switches, and all that stuff. I think he is a bit better on the feet than Holland. Just because also Holland sometimes like I feel like he's kind of inconsistent with how he uses his physical advantages. And I feel like for him to get a takedown, he's gonna have to get close to Thompson. And I feel like that's the same reason why I don't think he's gonna be able to like land that much offense. Of course, he could always close his eyes, bang, inshallah, right hand. But that's how I see this fight. Unless Wonder Boy had just gone, like you said, he's gone so much older. So I actually think he can land some big shots. Of course, Kevin Holland could too. But so you're picking Holland, right? Via decision.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that, right? If it's very close, Wonder Boy, it seems like he just tends to be absolutely awful when it comes to like these decisions. Like he's just lets the fight like play out too much, in my opinion. So I can see that. I'm gonna go Thompson. I think tentatively I'm gonna pick him. I think as long as he's not super old, which like you said, you never know. But I think he's just a better striker overall than Holland. But there's little things going into that. So that's how it's a close fight. I mean, and you could tell it's a good card when me and Mike are not unanimous with our picks. So that should be it for our show. Thank you guys for listening. Very soon, I hope that if our schedules are not too busy, we'll do some holiday stuff, possibly some reviews of some movies and some shows, as long as our third co-host Raymond allows it. So that's basically it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more quick, casual MMA picks, for tape studies that I do every once in a while. Also, we break down Marvel, uh, Disney Plus, Star Wars, all that the geeky stuff. And also go down in the description below and subscribe to our Spotify or Apple podcast. Even if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, it really, really helps our show. Hopefully, with the money, we could buy Mike a new microphone. So, thank you guys for listening, and we're out. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like what you were listening to, please subscribe to Fans Assemble. And if you can, please give us a rating. Do it for the audio world. They need you.